On the very day the true heir was welcomed back into the lap of luxury, I, the counterfeit who had been squatting in the nest for 18 years, was nailed to the pillar of shame by my foster parents and sister with the coldest of glares. They handed me a check and told me to get the hell out immediately, looking at me as if I were a piece of disgusting trash. I was ecstatic on the inside, but on the surface, I feigned an expression of utter devastation, preparing to perform a grand exit of tearful gratitude before living it up. But what they didn't know was that they could actually hear my inner thoughts. They heard the shocking secret that this company would go bankrupt in 3 days, and they heard about their own miserable futures. They certainly didn't know that this biological son they treated like a treasure was actually the demon who would push them into hell. Now, do they still want me to leave? Get out. 2 bone-chilling words spat from the mouth of the man who was nominally my father, Robert Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises. Standing beside him was a teenager who looked 70% like him, but seemed cramped and uneasy. That was Caleb, the real young master just brought back from the countryside. And I, Lucas Sterling, was the thief, the imposter who had occupied his life for 18 years. The living room was dead silent, the atmosphere oppressive enough to suffocate. The elegant and graceful mother, Victoria Sterling, held Caleb with red-rimmed eyes, as if she wanted to compensate him for 18 years of motherly love all at once. The look she shot me was filled with undisguised disgust and hatred. My sister, Isabella, who had always been somewhat gentle with me, now stood beside Caleb with a cold, beautiful face, glaring at me with eyes full of guard and hostility. It was as if I might pounce at any second and hurt her newfound biological brother. I lower my head, shoulders trembling slightly, putting on a show of being on the verge of tears. Oh, hell yes. Finally, the day has come. This is awesome. Hurry up. Kick me out. I can't wait to run toward my life of freedom. This damn wealthy lifestyle. So many rules it's killing me. Don't smack your lips when eating. Don't make noise when walking. Don't show teeth when laughing. I've endured this for 18 years. I'm about to burst from internal injuries. As long as I leave here, the sky is the limit for birds, and the ocean is wide for fish. Barbecue stands, crawfish boils. Here I come. I was popping champagne bottles in my mind. However, what I didn't notice was at the moment my inner voice rang out, Robert, Victoria, and Isabella all stiffened simultaneously. A trace of astonishment and confusion flashed across their faces in unison. Robert frowned, staring at me. What were you just muttering about? I jerked my head up, looking confused and aggrieved. Dad, I didn't say anything. Muttering? I was screaming in my heart. Did I get so excited I spoke out loud? That can't be right. I was startled and quickly shut my mouth tight. Seeing my pitiful appearance, the impatience in Robert's eyes grew even stronger. He took a check from the butler's hand and slammed it onto the coffee table with a snap. Here is $1 million. Take it and disappear from our sight immediately. From now on, you're not allowed to step half a foot into the Sterling home, and you're certainly not allowed to tell anyone outside that you have any relationship with the Sterling family. 1 million. Are they dismissing a beggar? But hey, it's enough for me to live large for a while. My heart blossomed with joy, but my face showed the grief of the sky falling down. Only 1 million. Sterling Enterprises is a massive company worth billions, and this is all I get. Too stingy. Forget it. Beggars can't be choosers. But it's a pity. This huge family business is going into bankruptcy liquidation in 3 days. By then, let alone 1 million, they won't even be able to scrape together 10 grand. Sigh. Pity my so-called dad, still kept in the dark, foolishly dumping money into Vice President Miller's bottomless pit of a project. My heart's voice echoed clearly in the minds of the 3 Sterlings. This time, the expressions on their faces were no longer just astonishment. It was shock, absolute horror. Robert's pupils contracted violently, staring dead at me, his eyes sharp as knives. Bankruptcy? In 3 days. Vice President Miller's project? What is this bastard talking nonsense about? Victoria also stopped comforting her biological son, looking at me in disbelief. That look was like looking at Madman. Only my sister Isabella, eyebrows raised, was the first to explode. Lucas, what kind of nonsense are you spouting here? Just because you're getting kicked out, you're cursing our family to go bankrupt? How can your heart be so vicious? She shielded Caleb, acting as if she was terrified I, the venomous fake young master, would hurt her pure and harmless biological brother. I was stunned by her shouting. I didn't say a word. I was just thinking it in my head. Wait, they couldn't possibly be hearing my inner voice, right? An absurd and terrifying thought exploded in my brain. Holy crap. No way. Did the transmigration god give me a cheat code this bizarre? To verify my guess, I decided to test it. I looked at Isabella's face, flushed red with anger, and thought silently. My dear sister, you're defending this brother you just met so fiercely now. But have you ever considered that in your past life, you were pushed down the stairs by his own hands and ended up in a vegetative state? Just to inherit those few shares under your name a little earlier. TSK, TSK, TSK. What a fragile plastic sibling bond. Buzz. Isabella felt like her head had been smashed by a heavy hammer, instantly going blank. She staggered back a step, her face turning pale as paper, devoid of all blood. She looked at me in horror, then at the innocent-looking Caleb beside her, her eyes filled with fear and disbelief. What did she just hear? Lucas said. Caleb would push her down the stairs. How is that possible? This must be a hallucination. It's a vicious curse this bastard wants to use to sow discord before he leaves. Looks like they really can hear it. I am screwed. I can't even gossip freely anymore. What joy is left in life? I felt desolate inside. But my reaction, in Robert's eyes, became a silent admission. His heart beat wildly, an unprecedented sense of crisis enveloping him. Bankruptcy. That word circled in his brain like a curse. He stared at me, asking in a hoarse voice, "What you just said? About Vice President Miller's project? What exactly is going on?" His tone was no longer a command, but carried a hint of urgency he hadn't even noticed himself. I looked up, blinking innocently. "Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything. I will deny it to the death. Are you kidding? How could I possibly tell you that Vice President Miller, the guy you call a brother, is actually a corporate spy sent by your arch-rival? That so-called overseas new energy project is a scam from start to finish. It has already trapped all the liquid capital in your company accounts. In 3 days, the project will implode, the capital chain will break, the banks will call in debts, and the stock price will crash. By then, even God won't be able to save you. I better take the money and run fast to avoid being implicated. I might lose even this $1 million by then." My inner voice exploded in Robert's mind like heavy bombs. His face turned deathly pale in an instant. Vice President Miller was his most trusted confidant. That project was a critical step he had pushed through against all opposition, betting the company's future on it. He was actually a corporate spy? No. Impossible. Robert roared, his body teetering. "Dad, what's wrong?" Isabella saw this, and, disregarding the terrifying inner voice she just heard, quickly stepped forward to support Robert. Victoria also panicked, walking over quickly and anxiously patting her husband's back. "Robert, don't listen to this little beast's nonsense. He is deliberately trying to disrupt our family. Someone, throw him out for me. Immediately. Right now." She pointed at me, screaming shrilly. 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, grabbing my arms from left and right. "Don't. Let me finish watching. It's just getting to the climax." Does my so-called dad not believe it? Or does he not dare to believe it? Makes sense. Being betrayed by the brother you trust most isn't a good feeling. Back then, for this VP Miller, he even fired several founding members of the company. Well, now karma's here, right? Robert's brain was buzzing. Every sentence of my inner voice was like a knife, stabbing precisely into his weakest spots. He suddenly pushed away his wife and daughter, staring at me with bloodshot eyes. "Wait," he shouted hoarsely. The 2 bodyguards stopped and looked at him. Robert stared at me dead on, his eyes complicated to the extreme. There was anger, suspicion, but mostly a fear after being shaken. He didn't dare to gamble. What if what Lucas said was true? He couldn't afford that price. His Adam's apple bobbed as he spoke with difficulty. "You stay for now. Before things are clarified, you are not allowed to leave this house." "What?" I was dumbfounded. "Seriously? The script doesn't go like this. Not kicking me out. Does that mean I have to continue staying in this oppressive hellhole? My barbecue, my crawfish, my freedom." I wailed internally. Victoria and Isabella were also stunned. "Robert, are you crazy? Why are you making him stay?" Victoria screamed. Isabella was also anxious. "Dad, you'd rather believe the nonsense of an outsider than believe Uncle Miller." In their hearts, Vice President Miller was gentle and amiable, their father's most capable right-hand man. How could he be a spy? Only Caleb, who had just returned, lowered his head, a trace of imperceptible gloom and calculation flashing in his eyes. Robert ignored them, simply waving his hand, his face wearing an expression of unspeakable exhaustion. "Enough. I know what I'm doing. He gave me a deep look, one that seemed to say, you better not be lying to me, then turned and walked quickly up to the study on the second floor. He was going to verify it. He needed to make phone calls immediately to investigate the true situation of that project. In the living room, the atmosphere turned weird again. Victoria and Isabella glared at me with looks reserved for enemies. Stare all you want. I won't lose a piece of meat. When you find out the truth, you'll probably be crying and begging me to stay. I shrugged indifferently, walked to the sofa, and sat down heavily. I casually grabbed an apple from the table and took a loud, crunchy bite. Sweet. This arrogant attitude, acting as if no one else was present, nearly angered Victoria and Isabella into fainting on the spot. Lucas, who told you to sit down? Get up. Isabella was trembling with rage, pointing at me as she scolded. For 18 years, Lucas had always been the image of a docile, obedient brother in front of her. When had he ever shown such a rogue side? I glanced at her lazily and took another bite of the apple. Sigh, what a naive, sweet sister. Still have time to worry about whether I sit or not. She doesn't even know she's being targeted by a wolf. That school heartthrob named Brad. He's been chasing you frantically lately, right? Sending flowers, sending breakfast, moving you to tears. Too bad. He doesn't like you at all. He's just eyeing your family wealth. Even juicier, while he's chasing you, he's hooking up with your plastic best friend. The two of them often go to the equipment shed behind the bleachers. TSK, 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 they get really kinky. My inner voice, like a thunderclap on flat ground, exploded in Isabella's mind. Her face went whoosh, draining of all color. Brad, best friend, equipment shed. These words combined were like a poisoned dagger, stabbing fiercely into her heart. You're lying. Her voice trembled, and even the finger pointing at me was shaking. Brad isn't that kind of person. Tiffany definitely isn't either. You are slandering them. I laughed secretly. See, that's what a love brain is like. She won't learn until she hits rock bottom. That good best friend of yours has plenty of intimate videos of her and Brad saved on her phone, just waiting for a chance to kick you, the official girlfriend, out so she can take the spot. Whatever, I've said enough. Believe it or not, it's not me who's going to be unlucky. I finished the last bite of the apple, tossed the core precisely into the trash can, then leaned back on the sofa and closed my eyes to rest. I ignored her. Isabella, however, seemed drained of all strength, frozen in place. Reason told her this was all Lucas's nonsense. But that inner voice was so real, the details so clear, that a sliver of suspicion and panic uncontrollably grew in her heart. Brad, would he really betray her? Tiffany, was she really lying to her? She didn't dare to think further. On the other side, Victoria focused all her attention on her newly returned biological son. She held Caleb's hand, asking about his well-being, her face full of heartache. Caleb, all these years, you've suffered. Caleb smiled shyly and shook his head. Mom, I didn't suffer. Just being able to return to you and Dad, I'm satisfied. He acted obedient and sensible, provoking pity. Victoria was moved to tears. I didn't even lift my eyelids, but my heart was clear as a mirror. Act. Keep acting. This true young master is no saint. In those years in the countryside, fighting, brawling, petty theft, he did all kinds of evil. He was expelled from school in 10th grade for getting a female classmate pregnant. He came back to the Sterling family just for the money. Pity my delusional mom. She actually thinks she got back a sweet little angel. In reality, she invited a wolf into the house, an ungrateful white-eyed wolf at that. Victoria, who was holding Caleb and doting on him, suddenly went stiff. The loving smile on her face instantly solidified. She turned her head abruptly, staring dead at me resting on the sofa with my eyes closed. Her eyes were filled with shock and anger. Got a female classmate pregnant? Expelled from school? How is this possible? Her son, her biological son. How could he be scum like that? No, this must be a lie fabricated by that little beast, Lucas. He is just jealous. Jealous that Caleb came back and took everything that belonged to him. So he used such vicious words to slander Caleb. Lucas, she shouted sternly, her voice shrill and breaking. Shut your mouth. If you dare spout nonsense one more time, I'll tear your mouth apart. I slowly opened my eyes, looking innocent. Mom, I haven't spoken at all. This innocent yet infuriating appearance left Victoria with a breath stuck in her chest, unable to go up or down. Yes, he didn't open his mouth, but those words drilled into her brain with incomparable clarity. What exactly is going on? Is she possessed? Caleb, whose hand she was holding, also sensed the violent fluctuation of his mother's emotions. He looked up, a trace of panic flashing in his eyes, but he quickly covered it up. He spoke cautiously. Mom, what's wrong? Is it that I did something wrong and made you angry? Seeing his careful appearance, the scales in Victoria's heart tipped again. She took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing those absurd thoughts in her mind. It must be Lucas playing tricks. She turned, glared at me fiercely, then pulled Caleb along. It's nothing, Caleb. Mom is just too agitated. Come, Mom will take you to see your room. I prepared it for you a long time ago, decorated in your favorite style. She pulled Caleb upstairs, as if fleeing from me, the source of pollution. Yo, still pretending. That crap you did, even the stray dogs at the village entrance know about it. Just wait, in 2 days that girl's family will come knocking on the door. I want to see how you clean up that mess then. My inner voice chased Victoria's back like a death warrant. She stumbled, nearly falling down the stairs. Upstairs in the study, Robert slumped in his executive chair, his face ashen, his eyes empty. Just now, through overseas connections, he had indirectly asked about the new energy project. The result plunged him into an ice cave. That project didn't exist at all. The cooperating company was a shell company registered just recently. What Lucas said was actually all true. He had been scammed, played hard by the brother he trusted most. All the company's liquid capital, a full $3 billion, was trapped inside. 3 days. At most 3 days, this bomb would completely detonate. Robert felt the world spinning, his heart tightly gripped by an invisible hand, painful enough to stop his breathing. It's over. Sterling Enterprises is finished. Just then his phone rang. It was the company's CFO. Mr. Sterling, it's bad. Vice President Miller. Vice President Miller is out of contact. He flew out of the country yesterday afternoon. This news was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Robert's vision went black. The phone slid from his hand, and he collapsed into the chair. Robert, what's wrong? Victoria had just settled Caleb in. Coming downstairs, she saw the study door open and Robert paralyzed in the chair, looking like death. She was scared out of her wits and rushed in. Robert slowly lifted his head, looking at her with hollow eyes, his lips trembling, unable to speak for a long time. It's over. It's all over. He muttered to himself like a marionette. A sense of foreboding rose in Victoria's heart. What's over? Robert, don't scare me. Robert gave a miserable laugh and repeated what the CFO had just said. Miller. He took the money and ran. The company is going bankrupt. Victoria was struck by lightning, completely dumbfounded. Bankrupt? How? Wasn't everything fine a few days ago? She suddenly remembered something, spun around abruptly, and rushed out of the study, sweeping downstairs like a gale. She stared dead at the teenager, still lying leisurely on the sofa. It's you. It's all you, you jinx. You're the one who cursed our family into this. She screamed, pointing at me like a madwoman. I sat up slowly, looking at her with calm eyes. Collapsed already? We haven't even gotten to the good part. If you really knew that the baby swap back then wasn't an accident at all, but that your most trusted butler, Bennett, did it on purpose to avenge the death of his son caused by Robert years ago, you'd probably go crazy on the spot, wouldn't you? My inner voice, devoid of any emotional color, detonated like a nuclear bomb in the minds of Victoria and Robert, who had just walked down the stairs. Bennett? That old butler who had worked for the Sterlings for over 30 years, loyal and devoted, treated like family? It was him. He deliberately switched the children. For revenge. Uffed. Robert could no longer withstand the successive blows. A sweetness rose in his throat, and he violently spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, falling straight backward. Dad! Robert! Screams echoed through the entire villa. The entire Sterling household had completely turned into a chaotic mess. I sat on the sofa, watching the chaos, and sighed silently. Sigh, with such poor psychological resilience. How can he be a CEO? This is great. Anxiety attacking the heart. He's probably not far from a stroke. The Sterling villa was brightly lit all night. Robert was rushed to the hospital. After emergency treatment, he was finally out of danger, but the doctor said he suffered excessive shock and needed quiet rest. Victoria and Isabella guarded him at the hospital all night, dragging their exhausted bodies back only the next morning. The way they looked at me could no longer be described as simple hatred. It was a complex look mixed with fear, horror, and a trace of indescribable. They were afraid. Afraid of my jinx. No, that wasn't a jinx. That was prophecy. He said the company would go bankrupt, and the company really had an accident. He said there was a problem with Bennett. That thought made them shudder. Where is Bennett? Victoria asked the servant beside her in a hoarse voice. The servant answered tremblingly, Madam Bennett. Bennett said yesterday afternoon that there was an emergency at home and took leave to go back to his hometown. Took leave? At this critical juncture, Victoria and Isabella looked at each other, both seeing fear in each other's eyes. Everything seemed to be verifying Lucas's prophecies. Just then, I walked out of the guest room yawning. After Robert collapsed, no one dared to mention kicking me out anymore. Instead, they respectfully arranged a room for me. Morning, I greeted them in a good mood. Slept so well. Don't know how my so-called dad is doing. Hope he didn't actually kick the bucket. If he dies, who's going to clean up this mess? Then the company goes bankrupt and we all end up on the streets. No, I have to think of a way. Hearing my inner voice, Victoria's eyes suddenly lit up. He has a way. The moment this thought popped up, it was like she grabbed a life-saving straw. She rushed up to me in 3 steps, grabbed my arm, her eyes urgent. Lucas, do you have a way to save the company? I was startled by her. Mom, what are you saying? I'm just a high school student. What way could I have? I quickly shook my head. Of course there's a way, and it's simple. You just need to get your hands on that piece of ancestral land in the middle of nowhere that your newly recognized precious son, Caleb, owns. That land will be announced by the government next week as part of the new development zone. The land value will flip 1,000 times overnight. By then, let alone a 3 billion hole, even 30 billion could be filled. Too bad. You guys treasure him so much right now. How could you possibly rob him of his land? What's more, this is his capital for a future comeback. He would rather die than give it to you. Land? Development zone? Victoria and Isabella were shocked again by the information in my inner voice. They looked at Caleb, who was standing at the top of the stairs with a timid face, curiously looking this way. Their eyes instantly became incredibly complicated. That land was really that valuable? Victoria let go of me, took a deep breath, and tried hard to make her voice sound gentler. She walked toward Caleb. Caleb, tell Mom, do you have a piece of ancestral land back in your hometown? A trace of wariness flashed in Caleb's eyes, but he nodded. Yes, Mom, why? Victoria squeezed out a smile. It's like this. Your dad's company has some problems right now and needs funds for turnover. Look, could you lend that piece of land? Before she could finish, Caleb's face changed. No. Caleb rejected it without a second thought. His reaction was so intense that Victoria was stunned. The teenager who was docile and obedient just a moment ago was now like a cat whose tail had been stepped on for standing on end. Mom, that's the only memory Grandpa left me. It's my family's roots. I can't sell it. His eyes turned red instantly, his voice carrying a sob, as if he had suffered a massive grievance. With acting skills like that, it was a pity he didn't become an actor. Yo, here comes the drama. Talking about the only memory about family roots. When you stole your grandpa's life savings to gamble and lost it all, why didn't you think he was your only memory then? Now you know the land is valuable. You start acting like a filial son. Too late. I leaned against the wall, casually roasting him in my mind. Hearing my inner voice, the last bit of warmth in Victoria's heart vanished. Watching the performance of this biological son in front of her, she felt only incomparable disgust and irony. Stealing Grandpa's savings? Gambling? So, he had long ceased to be the innocent teenager she imagined. Her heart grew cold and hard bit by bit. Caleb, right now is the family's most difficult time. We are a family. Shouldn't you share some burden for the family? Victoria's tone also turned cold. Caleb seemed to sense the atmosphere was wrong, but he bit down hard and wouldn't let go. Mom, it's not that I don't want to. It's that the land really can't be touched. Besides, with such a big hole in the company, how much can my tiny piece of broken land be worth? It's basically a drop in the bucket. He was still playing dumb. Isabella also walked over. She now believed 70 to 80% of the content in my inner voice. She looked at Caleb, her eyes holding scrutiny and disappointment. Caleb, Dad is still lying in the hospital, the company is about to go bankrupt, and you really have the heart to stand by and do nothing? As long as you help us get through this crisis, we will compensate you double in the future. Pressed into a corner, Caleb decided to go for broke. I don't care. Anyway, I can't give you the land. If you force me, I'll go back to the countryside and never come back. He started acting like a scoundrel. This ugly face completely tore apart the last shred of fantasy in Victoria and Isabella's hearts. This was the relative they had longed to find. A selfish, cold-blooded, ungrateful wretch. Victoria was shaking with anger, pointing at him, unable to speak for a long time. It's useless. Against this kind of person, soft policies won't work. There is only one way. Simple and crude, but effective. Directly find a lawyer. Use the fact that he was switched back then, never fulfilled a day of maintenance obligations to the Sterling family, yet enjoyed the benefits brought by the Sterling family's search to sue him. Demand economic compensation. Then find a few private investigators, go to his hometown and dig up all those nasty things he did, petty theft, gambling debts, and lay them out in court. By then, he'll either obediently hand over the land or wait to be ruined and get not a single penny. My inner voice was like a beacon, instantly illuminating the dim hearts of Victoria and Isabella. Right, we can do that. Victoria turned her head sharply to look at me. That gaze was frighteningly hot. Lucas. Her voice carried a tremor and a plea. You help us, okay? I looked at Victoria's face, written with I beg you, my heart completely unmoved. Mom, you think too highly of me. I'm just a student who doesn't know anything. I can't help with such big matters. I refused decisively. Are you kidding? I just want to escape this place of trouble. Help you? What benefit do I get? Want me to help? Sure. Write a contract first. Once the company crisis is resolved, give me $100 million as a service fee and remove my name from the household registration. From then on, I make a clean break with the Sterling family, never to interact again until death. If you can agree to these two conditions, I might consider it. My conditions traveled clearly into Victoria and Isabella's ears. $100 million. Remove him from the registry. Victoria didn't even think, nodding immediately like pounding garlic. Yes, Lucas, Mom promises you. I promise everything. As long as you can help the Sterling family survive this crisis, let alone $100 million, I'll give you half the company's shares. You will always be my son. Your name stays on the household registration. You absolutely cannot be removed. She now saw me as the Sterling family's only savior. How could she be willing to let me go? Isabella also echoed urgently. Right? Lucas, you can't leave. This is your home. Me? Hey, are you guys missing the point? My point is to take the money and leave. A clean break. Why are you sticking to me? I looked speechless, while Caleb, watching this magical scene, was completely dumbfounded. What is going on? The mother and sister who a second ago wished they could swallow him alive. Why were they now bowing and scraping to Lucas, this fake young master, begging bitterly? They even said they'd give him $100 million and share shares with him. What? A huge panic and jealousy instantly drowned Caleb. He felt like he was losing something important. Mom, cease. Are you crazy? He screamed. You're actually begging this imposter and giving him money? Your money is all mine. It's the Sterling family's. You can't give it to him. Victoria turned back coldly and glanced at him. That look was icy and strange, like looking at unreasonable trash. Is there any place for you to speak here? Someone lock this unfilial son in his room. Without my permission, he is not allowed to come out. With one order, 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, forcibly dragging the noisy Caleb upstairs.